Hey guys, in this video, we're going to create new methods in our dog class. So if you remember, accessor methods are methods that provide access to an object's data. So right now in the dog class, we have 4 instance variables. These are called instance variables. The instance variables each contain data about the attributes of the dog object. So accessor methods are methods that provide access to each of these instance variables. So I want to create 4 accessor methods, one for each instance variable. And I want each of these methods to return data about the dog object that the method is called on. So following the syntax that I showed you in the last video, here's what I would write. First, I would write the keyword public. Then I would write the type of value that I want to return. In this case, I want to return the name of the dog, which is stored in a string. So I will write string. Then I will name the method getName because this method is giving me the name. Then I will write parentheses. For this method, and typically all accessor methods, parameters are not needed. So I will leave the parentheses blank with no parameters. Now, inside the body of the method, I will write return name. That's all. Now this method will return the name of the dog object that it is called on. Now here's a very important note for you. Methods like this one can only be called on dog objects. That means that I would need to declare an actual dog object like this and use this dog object to call such a method. Even more importantly, when I call methods like these on a dog object, it will return the name that we have declared for that dog object. For example, let's say that I have 2 more dog objects in the main method. Right now we only have 1. Now we have 3 dog objects with different names and attributes. When I call this method on a dog object, it will return the data or the name of the dog object specifically. For example, if I call the dog object getName on this dog object, which is called puppy, it will return the name of this dog object, which is Sparkles. When I call this method on this dog object, it will return the name of this dog object, which is Cookie. The same goes for the other object as well. Now let's try to actually call this method. I will create a string variable called puppy name, and I will store the value returned by the getName method in this variable when it is called on the object puppy. So in this variable, I will write puppy.getName parentheses semicolon. This is how you call a method on an object. You write the object name, followed by a dot or a period, followed by the name of the method, followed by parentheses. If there were parameters in this method, I would write parameter values in these parentheses. But since there are none, I just left it blank. Now, let's print out the value that gets stored in this variable. By writing system.out.println puppy name. When I run the code, you can see that the computer prints out Sparkles, which is the name attribute of this dog object. So what happened here is that first I declared this dog object called puppy by using this constructor and this whole class as a blueprint. Then in the parentheses, I declared the name value to be Sparkles. And this parameter value was assigned to this variable over here, dog name. So now dog name was equal to Sparkles. And then, since inside the constructor I wrote that name is equal to dog name, the name was now assigned the value Sparkles as well. And then in this line of code, when I called puppy.getName, it called this method on this object. And inside the method, it says to return the name of the object. So it returned Sparkles. And then Sparkles was stored in this variable puppy name, which is of type string. And then I printed out the variable puppy name So when I ran the code, it printed out sparkles. Let me show you another example. Let's say that I create another accessor method called getBreed that works the same way as this method, except now it's going to return the breed of the dog object. So I will write public string, since the breed is also stored in the form of a string, so this method is also going to be returning a string. Then I will name the method getBreed, followed by parentheses. And since this is also an accessor method and it doesn't need any parameters, I will leave the parentheses blank. And then inside the method, I will write return breed. Now, when this method is called on any of these dog objects, it will return the breed of that specific object. Let's create a string variable that will store the value that is returned when this method is called on this dog object. So let's name it dog2breed. And then to call this method on dog2, we would write dog2.getBreed followed by empty parentheses and a semicolon. Now let's print out the value that would be stored in dog2breed. So what is going to happen in this code is that this parameter value that we have entered for this dog object is stored in this variable dog_breed, and that variable is assigned to this variable. So now breed will also have the value poodle, and then in this line of code, when this method is called on this object, it will return the breed of this object, which is poodle. So when we run the code, you can see that the computer returns poodle. So this is how you can use accessor methods in Java.